Hello and welcome. I wanted to share just a little bit about what sovereignty means to me. There is a certain gravitas to this word for most people, even if we don't exactly know what the word means. There's still some feeling, some sense of strength, or something about what this word means. It's formally used most often in reference to governments. So Wikipedia quotes it as meaning, "Sovereignty is the full right and power of a governing body over itself, without any interference from outside sources or bodies." So then, if we take this in context of personhood, this word means that we as people have full right and power over ourselves without interference from outside sources. So this can obviously be taken in many ways depending on your perspective, and I'll just share some of what it means to me. Obviously, this is a bigger conversation, and I know a lot more would arise and be elaborated on if I were having a conversation with someone, but I just wanted to share some insights here in hopes that we can embody this sense of sovereignty more within our own personhood, within our own being as individuals, as humans, and as people who have full capacity to have agency over their lives. So, yes, so to be sovereign to me means that we have personal agency over our lives. So at some point, as we mature, we step further into conscious awakeness and become ever more so sovereign. And this obviously happens at different stages, different speeds for different people. And I don't see it as some point of arrival, but more so as a way of leading our own lives, at which some point we might look back and feel like we've arrived. We might look back at some point in our life in retrospect and see, wow, I feel like I've become this sovereign person who has full agency over my life. But it's a process. So we live in a time, and most of us in countries where many have the freedom of sovereignty that our ancestors did not have in context of our culture and society and whatnot. So particularly one example, for instance, an easy one for me to access is as a woman in America, I have certain rights and freedoms of sovereignty that even my mother or my grandmother did not have, right, in this country. And I don't take this for granted ever, and I hope that you don't either. And even if we grew up in past generations, or we do experience still aspects where our culture or society does not respect our sovereignty, we still are sovereign if we so choose, right? We are sovereign because we are conscious beings. We are sovereign because we are aware and awake. We take the weight of what our ancestors swam upstream for, and we get the privilege of being able to do something with that freedom in whatever capacity that freedom exists. So in my culture, and a lot of cultures around the world, many children never experience an actual delineation or like a rite of passage into adulthood. We do have these moments like, where a woman will get her menstrual cycle, or we might graduate from high school or something like that, but it's not ingrained in ceremony or tradition or something like that for a lot of people. And so I'll, obviously speak from American culture because that's where I come from, but I know many others will relate to this too. Because many of us don't have this milestone marked in our lives with a tradition or with ritual or with a ceremony, and because our culture is still catching up in valuing, say, emotional intelligence, intuition, body wisdom, we age physically, our physical bodies age as it would, but too often we don't mature emotionally or with our own inherent wisdom developing. So when we are physically aging but not necessarily emotionally maturing, we don't actually get to embody our sovereignty, what this actually means for us. And so we don't learn often what we stand for. We don't learn what our authentic boundaries are. We don't learn our own voice and our unique expression. We stay small, we shrink, we hide, we stay quiet, we be good, we please others. We insidiously secede our own boundaries. And eventually, many of us lose touch with who we are. So when this happens, sometimes we might lash out from this space because we feel like a scared puppy trapped in a corner, but we don't realize that we are actually much stronger than we're allowing ourselves to be. So when we can embody our sovereignty, when we can align within our truth and our center and ground into this authenticity within, we then get to expand this truth outward through our physical body, our boundaries, our energetic boundaries, and out into the shared world. On the topic of spirituality, empaths, non-duality, I have something else to say in regards to this. So, yes, we do live in an inextricably intertwined non-dual reality, right? So many people say we're all one at a fundamental and grand level. At the ultimate truth, we're all one, right? And this is true. And we are also each unique individuals living dualistically. So to disregard this truth that we are also individuals is actually to willfully ignore the reality of our human existence. When we ignore this truth, those who consider themselves to be empaths or suffer from codependency or people-pleasing will forever be trapped and lost in the ethereal oneness of existence. So I don't want to say if you are truly enjoying and loving staying in the oneness, then please don't let me prevent you from enjoying that at all. It's an amazing state of existing. It's beautiful. But I'm saying all this because if you have had these, oneness experiences or consider yourself very empathic, and you find yourself suffering regularly from having non-existent boundaries or repetitive cycles of dysfunctional relationships, or just suffering in knowing who you are or why you're here or what the fuck your purpose is, then I invite you to begin actually stepping into your sovereignty. It's your birthright. You are a magnificent and stunning human being with all the power to co-create the life that your heart longs for. 2 last points to bring some clarity. When we are sovereign, when we're in our sovereignty, just to go back to the beginning quote from Wikipedia, that sovereignty is the full right and power of a governing body over itself without any interference from outside sources or bodies. When we are in our sovereignty, we do not have interference from outside sources. So please be clear about this word interference and don't conflate it with influence or other meaning. It is impossible to not be influenced or inspired or otherwise by outside sources. But when we are acting out of sovereignty, we do get choice over what we allow to interfere with us and with our authentic truth or not. And a small point on boundaries, a practice perhaps to try feeling into. When you feel into what sovereignty feels like within your being, just notice if your boundaries feel non-existent, if they feel hard or rigid, flexible or adaptable to outside sources. So, I would love to hear your thoughts, feelings, observations, inspiration, what this stirred within your being, or anything else that you would like to share on this juicy topic. You can contact me at meganhart.coach. That's meganhart.coach. And I look forward to hearing from you. Until next time.